Welcome to Talking Heads on USA Global TV, starring the one and only wonderful Dr. Jacalyn. It's a prestigious place where world-class influencers and experts meet, and where you'll find the most trusted advisors and coaches for all things in life and business. Visit usaglobaltv.com to sign up for our newsletter, get the value you need, and be first in line to learn about events and giveaways and other valuable content. Connect with us. Email Dr. Jacalyn at usaglobaltv.com to talk about how you can become part of USA Global TV. That's USA Global TV, where the doctor is always in.
Hello. Yes, it's true. The doctor is in. 7 shows in a row today, still going. Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio. As of last night, we now have a new radio channel as well. We are on TuneIn Radio, so you can watch or listen wherever you are in the world. I'm Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, and our show today is a woman's prerogative. We are going to be discussing body shaming, self-esteem, or the lack thereof, and how it could possibly relate to social media. Joining me is the actual host and moderator of our show, Amber J. Lawson. Welcome. Woohoo! We'd love to hear from you. Yes, you're on mute.
Hello, everybody. And that's what happens when we feel body shamed. We go on mute.
Yes, we just close down.
Shut down, we go inward. And that is the opposite of what the divine feminine gets to be, is our radiant self. We'll talk about that.
I love that. We are going to talk more about that as you lead us through our discussion today. Let's bring up our panel. Joining us is JENETTA Barry. She is one of the co-hosts here on our platform. She's also one of our elevated listeners, and she's just a darn nice person. Let's bring her out.
Except when she isn't. Hi, everybody.
Nice to have you with us. And you're 5 hours ahead of me and 8 hours ahead of Amber. It's fabulous. We have this global audience. And we also have joining us, she's been missing and we've missed her. She's been traveling the world. She's TRACY LAMOURIE. She is the public relation publicist to the celebrities. Welcome.
Hey, how are you? Glad to be back. Glad to see all your beautiful faces again.
Well. Nice to see you.
Honored to be and thrilled to be back. Yeah.
We have Justina, who's not here yet, so we'll welcome her. We have a very, very special guest. This guest, her name is Madalene Chan, and she is also a co-host here on our platform. She's also an elevated listener. She's a vocal coach. She's an international award-winning singer-songwriter, and she teaches people how to get in touch with who they really are, as opposed to all of this materialistic 3D world. Let's welcome her. Madalene, nice to have you.
Hi, Dr. Jacalyn.
Hi.
Hello, beautiful ladies. Hi.
Welcome.
Welcome. And for an official introduction for Amber J. Lawson. Amber J. left the corporate world. She had a huge job. She was vice president of content for AOL, and she was integrally involved in the merger between AOL and Huffington Post. She left corporate. She's done. I've had enough. And she started her own business, how women can really focus on the goddess in them. Her process is called the Goddess Process. But that's not all. No, there's more. She also helps comedians in all aspects of their life as they're up and coming, or maybe they are looking for work. She created something called Comedy Gives Back, and she has worked with and is working with some of the biggest names in Hollywood and across the world. She is not only someone who leads with her heart, she's giving with her heart day in and day out, lifting up other people. So Amber J., over to you. You are now in charge, my friend.
Well, thank you. Yay. All right. Let's stir this pot. Thank you, Dr. Jacalyn, for creating this platform for our voices to be heard, to share our points of view, our experiences, and to come together to hear others' experiences where we don't feel so alone in the world. It's so magical and really inspiring, all of the different places on the planet that women's prerogative players that are attracted here together. And to realize that we're all the same. We're all very, very similar. So today we dig into body shaming, self-confidence, and how social media impacts us. I'd like to go around the dais table today, the panel, and hear from each one of us. And I'd like one at a time to go. Let's highlight your story. Where, or a moment in your life where you turned inward, where you maybe shut down or collapsed inward. Maybe you dulled your shine because someone outside of yourself, or maybe it was an internal conversation from something you saw, heard, society, family, coworkers, boss, partner said to you, or you experienced such that you had a different vision or view of your body, where you felt like your body wasn't right, wasn't enough, wasn't done the right way or shaped the right way. I can speak. I'll jump off the discussion. When I was in 8th grade, I had it in my head that, and I maybe have told you this story before. I had it in my head that if I made cheerleader, that I would, and went into my freshman year of high school, that life would be made. Like everything from that moment on would be perfect if I made cheerleader. So I went and I did all the things that you're supposed to do. I was the loudest, I was the peppiest, I hit all my marks, and I didn't make cheerleader. And I thought the reason I didn't make it is because I was too fat and not pretty enough. And so from that moment on, every one of my decisions, now I was hell-bent on being successful in life. So I was like, well, I just have to be a doer because my looks, my presence alone isn't enough. So I'm going to do my way into success. So I worked and worked, and ultimately I succeeded in college. I succeeded as a performer. I succeeded in Hollywood. I succeeded in business by grinding 80-hour work weeks, doing all the things, doing it like a man. And then cut to like 5-6 years ago, I'm at home in Kansas City with my mom. And somehow this conversation got brought up, and she goes, "Oh, no, the reason you didn't make cheerleader is because you got in-school suspension for writing dirty words in a Mad Libs, and Richard Wehrmeyer told your lit teacher about it." So I had been all of these years with this belief, right? With this belief system. So this story that shaded a lens in all my decisions. So that's my story to kick off. Like, let's go there. Let's go deep, because through each other we heal. Like, who else here had a story that they weren't pretty enough or didn't have a body shape, that they didn't get something, that they didn't achieve something that they wanted so badly or thought that would move them along, right? So, Dr. Jacalyn, I know you have a story.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for sharing your story. That was really interesting. I could picture you trying as a cheerleader. I bet you'd be an excellent cheerleader. My story also goes back to when I was in school, and I just remember I was wearing a blue gym uniform that was like shorts. It was like a onesie thing, and you have your name embroidered. And we were in the locker room, and we were getting changed, and someone pointed out that I had breasts. It's a hard word to say. And I was really embarrassed because I got them, I guess, before the other girls did. So I went and talked to my mother, and she got me this. It looked like something that the military issued. I mean, it was a bra that could stand by itself. It could take a beating. You could do almost, you could use it as earphones. I don't know what it was, but I ended up wearing that. And every time I'd be in the locker room, people would make fun of me. So throughout my life, I was always the busty one, and guys would make fun of me. They used to call me Dolly Parton. I remember in college, they even stood up on the table and they all went, Dolly, Dolly. And as I got to be an older woman, that younger woman was still there. And that younger woman felt ashamed and embarrassed that I was the first one to bloom early. And of course, everyone else ended up blooming at some point. And then the way that people treated me, it just broke me. And it wasn't actually until in my 50s when I started to look at it and say, you know what, thank God I have healthy breasts, because people don't have that. Thank God I'm healthy, and look at it in a different way. But I'm telling you, for all those years, I always thought there was something wrong with me, that I just stood out and people would just laugh at me.
Isn't it interesting? And that little girl inside that blossomed so early, that was made fun of, how did that impact choices you made and how you showed up into rooms, showed up in business, showed up in your mission?
Yes, it definitely impacted me in all those aspects. I would say the most telling is my health, because my health started going downhill. I have 3 autoimmune diseases. And I know that that's not the only reason, but a lot of the choices I made were because I was insecure and I didn't like myself. There were times when I even hated myself. And those choices, the men I was with, the decisions I made, they were all based on low self-esteem.
Yeah. Who can relate to that? I hear you. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
JENETTA, when in your life did you feel shamed, or you were ashamed of your body? You thought that your body was maybe different than others?
Yeah, I think mine happened over a period of time. It wasn't a one defining moment, because I lived a very kind of oxymoronish type of life, very loving parents, but also at the same time very aware that they shouldn't tell me I'm too good looking or too nice a figure, or in case I got big-headed and it would affect and impact my life. Plus the fact, and then they'd push me on to work with them on stage work, and of course other people would say she's not bad looking and that sort of thing. So I'd go, well, what am I? And then I had, and I mentioned this last week, I had a very abusive sibling who, for the majority, well, until one day, it changed, and they turned as nice as pie. But for all my growing up life, they kept on putting me down, ridiculing me, putting me down in front of my friends when they visited, everything I did, mentally and emotionally, just pulling me down all the time. So by the time I got to adulthood, I had this, I know I'm okay, I know I am, but nobody else does. And it kind of went further. Not only did I feel that my body wasn't how I wanted it to be, but I had this belief system that initially everybody thought I was bright and bubbly, but when they really got to know me, they wouldn't like me. They'd hate me. I'm a horrible person. So that conflicted with my body as well. And I was saying this to Dr. Jacalyn the other day, the number of times where somebody's taken a photo of me and I've gone, oh my gosh, that's a horrible photo. I hate it. My hips are this, my boobs are that, and that critic's so loud. And then several years later, I'd come across that photo and go, oh, wow, that's a really nice photo. Wow, I look half bad. And it blows me to this day, because even today, when I had that photo shoot a few weeks ago, you got to hear the critic in me, and I allowed it out. Thank goodness I had Ellen as my photographer. I said, okay, listen to me and I'll tell you. And I went, blah, 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 and it all came, it all came out. And then I was able to do the thing, because that talk is always there. Always.
And who can relate to that of the dialogue happening inside, and then you take the shoot or the picture and you reflect back and you're like, oh my God, I look great. If I could only look like that. Yes, Tracy. Yes. You're on mute. There you go. Oh, you're on mute again.
I'm thinking about pictures looking back, you know, when I was young, because I never let that stuff stop me. And I always dealt with it. I've always been the overweight girl, always. But I never let that stop me. I was always like, yeah, you know what? I'll show you. If anything, I couldn't let that be the wind beneath my wings to be like you said, yeah, Amber, you know, I'm going to work harder and show you. And I did, you know. But so what you said really resonated, Amber, but also what Jenetta's saying, because I'm thinking back to, you know, even though I never let it stop me and I kept doing things in my head, I was like, I was thinking about how I was going to be perceived. And lately I've gotten, like, I'm thinking about when I was 20, when I was 21. And lately I've gotten a bunch of pictures from when I was 20 and 21. I'm looking now, I'm like, why did that girl know that she looked good? Because I looked fine. Like, if I saw other girls like that, you know what I mean? Like, she wasn't too fat, she wasn't skinny, but she wasn't like what I was thinking in my head, you know? So I think I limited myself a lot in a personal, never in a professional, but you know, in a personal level in younger years, you know. And then luckily, you know, it's funny, my husband and I, we're 24 when we got together, and I'm 52 now, so we've been married like 28 years. So on top of successful in, you know, business or whatever, it's funny, like, because you know what, the thing that the girls in high school would have thought, which is, you know, the fat girl is going to be the one that doesn't get married or is left alone or whatever. I look back and I'm like, well, actually, that's not what happened. A lot of those girls didn't get the life that they wanted, you know, and I got the life that I would not have imagined. I got the, you know, good-looking guy. He still looks good 30 years later. So I don't know if I'm articulating it well, but you know, what we think of in our head and the story that we tell ourselves, I could have stayed hiding in the basement thinking, oh yeah, you know, I'm just a fat girl, nobody's gonna date me, nobody's gonna whatever. I limited myself by doing that and thinking that. Instead, I was like, no, you know what, I'm not having it. And I just put myself out there and kept going out there, you know, and on a personal level and a professional level. And I you know, I think the high school kid in me is amazed at the results, really, you know. I didn't have to lose the 50 pounds to be successful in life like everyone thinks.
Tracy, where do you think we get that from? Because I mean, I can 100% relate. And where did that come from when you were in high school and you weren't what you thought you saw in your mind?
Yeah, but I mean, at the same time, I do remember other kids saying, you know, I was overweight and stuff. Even in grade 5, when I look at pictures, I'm like, I really wasn't that fat. But, you know, if you're a little bit more fat or your hair's a little more curly or your name's a little funny or whatever it is, there's going to be kids that are going to comment on that. Like you said, it could be that one comment or that one thing that, you know, I may think that never limited me. Or I may think I never let it bother me. I may think I let it roll right off my back. Clearly, I internalized that. Even though I didn't let it stop me, I still internalized that as who I was as a kid. Or because that's that moment of being surprised when I saw my pictures in grade 5. Because I can't remember myself being a little fat kid. And I'm like, wait a minute, that was grade 5. I really don't look that fat, you know? And then again, even at 21, I'm like, wait, what? Okay. So, but in my mind at the time, it wasn't like I wasn't bulimic, I wasn't anorexic, which, by the way, you know, somebody was mentioning too, my, you know, Dr. Too, another thing you were saying that resonated with me is, you know, developing earlier than anyone else. My best friend growing up, Yolanda, developed, you know, a year before any of us. So in grade 6, she was really conscious. We didn't realize as kids how conscious. So, you know, it's painful for me to hear that in some ways, because I know that she was real. I remember, one day someone threw something at her and it landed here and everybody laughed and the look on her face was like, 'cause they were laughing because, it stayed, and the look on her face was like really devastated beyond the joke, So now it makes me realize how conscious she was of that. And then the sad part is, so she struggled for years, and she wasn't overweight. She was, curvaceous, and she struggled for years with that. And in teenage years, she became bulimic and anorexic, and we lost her when she was 35 because she kept that going for 20 years, hidden, and we didn't realize it. So, and that was pre-social media. I'm glad we didn't grow up with social media. I love social media. I know how to manage it, and I love it these days. But I can't imagine being a young person, because then that thing, that voice is never off. At least in our day, you can go home school and shut the door and recover and not look forward to going the next day. But now I think kids have that all the time. Then that's never, the door is never closed. They never have that private space. They're always open to whatever the other kids' perceptions are.
I want to come back to eating disorders because I want to get everybody in the mix here. So Madalene, share your story with us.
Yeah, for me, my trigger that reactivated my insecurity was basically because I'm half Chinese, half English, and I went to a Western school. And at that time in 1975, 76, I was the only Chinese girl in the school. And I used to get bullied. And so I decided I want to be made English. So I shaved my eyebrows. I know, I painted them red, literally like with pencil, drew them red. I dyed my hair. No disrespect to you, Tracy, but I dyed it red, a bright red, and I had a tight perm. And I looked like something like McDonald's from, honestly, I looked like the clown from McDonald's. But I thought that I looked good, but I looked ridiculous. So that was one of them. And then I started to accept my my culture, my the way I look. I started to realize, hang on, somebody said to me, you have to use this as a gift. It's a gift, this is. You don't wipe it out. So I accepted myself with the image, with the face, at least. However, I was not very comfortable about my body shape. And then when I first started at my first job, well, it was actually second job, actually. I was working for an insurance company in the accounts department. And I made friends with these three other girls. And when they say you're at school and there's the in girls, the it girls that just look super fantastic figures, super faces, just absolutely gorgeous. And they were very close. And they said to me, why don't you join us? Come for and so I did. And I went to the clubs with them. And I'd be the one holding the handbags. I'd be the one watching the fit guys, literally dancing with them. And I would look at myself, and I was a little bit overweight, not too much, but what I saw in the mirror was an elephant. I mean, I didn't look like that, but because my mind, I looked in the mirror and I saw this ugliness. And I saw them three as princesses, as just, not princess, but just beautiful, just lovely girls that are just so popular. And the guys, really flocked around them and made me feel so, not even like a girl anymore. I felt like a piece of furniture. And they always kind of dared me. And I'd end up getting the as I say, the guys that weren't so great looking, but was overweight. And, it's horrible. It's very cruel. It really is cruel. But the end of it all is that now I am at that point now. It's almost like I've gone back to that, but not to the mind shift of feeling ugly. My life has become better. And I've accepted myself fully, my look, my body, everything at 50. At 50.
This is a beautiful teeing up of my next question, by the way, which is exactly that. Hello, welcome, Justina.
Hello,
Justina.
sorry I'm late. I was held up. I just finished another meeting. Thank you. I'm sorry. Thank you for waiting.
So join us in this discussion, and I want to open it up to the floor. So whoever this calls to, and really, Madalene, you teed this up. When did you accept how you look? When did you embrace who you be? And I'm going to say it has been the last 4 or 5 years when I truly embraced myself in my 40s and into my 50s. I have no F's to give. This is what I got, and I rock it. So when did you embrace who you be?
Well, I'll step forward with it. It's an interesting one because I found I've gone in and out. So when I was in my 40s, I really felt very comfortable in my skin. And then for a time in my 50s, I didn't. And now that I'm in my 60s, my body's really changing radically, really changing. And that's where I was a few weeks ago at the photo shoot, going, oh, I'm having to adapt to a new me. So I find I have to start reprogramming and reprocessing myself because nothing that I used to be able to do that felt comfortable for me works anymore, or doesn't work as easily.
And how have you managed to navigate that? So aging, our bodies are changing very quickly. How have you been able to stay true to you, to stay rooted?
It's a really great question, and I think it would be great to get. I hope people in the audience respond to this as well. But definitely aging gracefully. And one of the things that I realized was that until I healed myself, I wouldn't find somebody in my life who would love me for all I am and all I am not. So I worked on myself a lot in the cycles of not liking myself. And with it, I now have a partner who goes, I don't care how you look. You're beautiful, you're gorgeous. I just adore you. And, you know, whether you've got 300 wrinkles or none, or you're this or you're that. And I think that's the thing, is when you start accepting yourself more and more, you start attracting the people and the circumstances into your life that reflect that. So I'm getting that endorsement I didn't have at early age now, and trusting a man, because I couldn't trust any men. Men, you know, don't speak to the hand. That's how.
Well, you couldn't trust any men because you couldn't trust yourself. Is that true?
Exactly. And the moment I started loving myself and understanding that at photo shoots, when I'm being showed things, I'm going, no, that's horrible, take it away. And I'm allowed to say it. And then they go away and they go, right, now have a look at it again and look at this. And I'm going, you're absolutely right. I love it. But you've got to have that space to express it and not judge the judgment. And that was
not judge the judgment.
Yeah, that was a big thing for me, was to go, allow yourself to say, don't like it. Don't let that little girl goes, no. And then when you've been allowed to safely express it, you go back and say, what was that all about?
Thanks, Jenetta. I can jump in.
Great, please.
I think I finally accepted who I am during the pandemic. And I think it's because I had so much time in isolation on an island with my mother behind a green screen. And I wasn't involved with anyone. And it wasn't like I had to be so on top of how I look every second, and is my hair colored perfectly, and are my nails done perfectly. And I've been getting Botox. I'm 59. I started getting it when I was 26, and I haven't gotten it for a year. The last time I got it was July. And trust me, I would have already gotten it 4 times or by now. And now I'm like, okay, I've got the number 11. I've got this coming back, and I'm just going to deal with it. So I, unlike JENETTA, am so happy I'm not involved with anyone. I have no interest in being involved with anyone, answering any questions. Where were you? What were you doing? No, I'm working. That's what I'm doing, and I like it. And I'm not getting the Botox, and I'm pretty darn pleased with who I am, but it took isolation in order for me to find it.
Well, and that's interesting. Is there a need to be perfect? And what is perfect? And what are we working so hard towards when really we are divine? Just we're fine and divine, just as we are in the body, in the meat suit that we got.
Meat. That's very masculine.
I mean, we're a spirit, right? We're an infinite being, and this is just the suit you got right now. This is the costume you're wearing. So you can either embrace this costume and the lessons it's teaching you and love it, all the bumps and curves and colors and shapes and transformation and changes, or we can fight it, right? So we can resist what resists persists, or we can go with the flow. Dr. Justina, when did you accept your body? My single sister.
I've never had to debate or think about my body, so to speak. I think I accepted it as soon as I was born. And growing up, I've never had any questions about my body. I've never had this journey of saying, I am now coming into, I think I've always been into myself. And I also believe that there's a constructed view of what beautiful should look like. I went in, how do I put this? My country, Zambia, was colonized by the British. So during my formative years, we already were living in a community that was multi-ethnic. We had ourselves that might go Black people or people of color. We had people that were white. We had the Chinese. We went to school with different kinds of ethnicities. So Black, white, Chinese, Indian, and all of that. So even when I was young from kindergarten, I could see these different looks of children. And I just believe that this is how I am, because that's what my parents looked like. And of course, I could see if my Chinese friend, the parents came to school, they looked Chinese. The child looked Chinese because that's what their parents was. I think from a very early age, because of the perhaps kind of community that I grew in, I understood that there are different versions of people, or also different versions of beauty. So I've never had the issue of trying to say at any point in my life that this is not me. And also, whenever I have to dress up or look good, I'm looking good for myself. I'm not trying to look good for another person. I just believe that it is a matter of respect to the audience that I am going to. For example, if I'm going to a job interview, if I'm going to a reception, a red carpet event, that I have to dress up accordingly, because this is what the event entails, and I've got to look that part, but not that I'm trying to look that way so that the opposite gender or the next person would be approved of me. I don't know whether that makes sense at all, but yeah, so I've never had that issue of trying to come into myself. I've always been who I am, and I've always accepted myself as such, and I've always understood that there are different versions of people that perhaps God made in his own images. And of course, we can say God has got several images, and that's what we are.
Well, that's true.
Several images.
I'm like on the floor, like, wow. was it your parents or the environment that were you not exposed to television or wanted to look like someone else? I'm just so impressed. Like, how do we moving forward support other generations so that they don't have to feel the pain that we felt around our bodies?
No, in fact, we were exposed to television. We were we had, for example, when we were young, we had these catalogs of a book, a lookbook, as you call it in America, where my mother used to kind of order her clothes coming from the United Kingdom, from Britain, to order them to come to Zambia. And in those books, sometimes we used to play games, choose the model and say, oh, this is me, this is me. But it never made us feel uncomfortable. We understood that there are different kinds of people. Of course, we were exposed to television. For example, I remember when Neil Armstrong and the team were going to the moon, we stayed up all night just so that we could see that, because that happened about 2 a.m. in our country. I also remember when I think it was Muhammad Ali having a fight. We stayed up to watch it on television because of the time difference. So of course we were always exposed to television. I told you about me, about 10 years old, wanting to come to America because of Michael Jackson. So we were exposed to television, but we just understood who we were, because I think we were born and found ourselves in this community that had different kinds of people. And for us, we just knew that you had to look like what your parents looked like. There was no way I was going to look white if my parents are Black. There was no way I was going to have straight hair if my parents' hair was curled. So the parent, the look of the child depicted the parent, and we understood that. We also understood that there are different kinds of people. I went to a convent school. We had white nuns that taught us. But I never, maybe to say for myself, but I could also say for my sisters, we never at any time thought that we are not good enough, or that we should look like the next person, not even like the nun that was standing in front of us, because sometimes we even used to make fun of the nuns when they tried to sing to us and had that high-pitched soprano to sing, and we were trying to imitate them, but that's where it ended.
I'd love to pop in at this point, because I think you've made a really good point. I grew up in Kenya. I grew up in an integrated society with ambassadors' daughters, Koreans, Polish, even with the Iron Curtain, where it was every nationality. I also went to a convent, and we all accepted each other for who we were. And yet I had issues. And listening to you, I actually believe that there are certain personalities that are more sensitive to how they feel and what's happening around them than other people who are just more accepting for what actually is. And if I listen to you versus me, I really do know I was an overly sensitive child, because I could pick up everything and feel everything, and it was an overwhelming time to grow up as a sensitive child. We've lost Dr. Justina.
Well, so was it a desire to be liked and to be accepted?
Yeah.
I mean, ultimately, I feel we wanted to fit in and frankly be loved.
Yeah, I agree. And I think there are some people that need it more, some personalities that need that endorsement perhaps a little bit more than other personalities. I've seen this many times.
I agree. I was always, sorry, Madeline, I'll just say I was always searching to feel safe. Not so much love, but safe. Madeline?
No, I was going to say something, Dr. Jacalyn. I think that, I don't know why, but I think that, maybe things turned when the supermodels came in. When the supermodels, which was like Kate Moss, Naomi Campbell, Linda Lusardi, they kind of were supermodels. And it's like every girl wanted to have that perfect figure that perfection. And there was more depression during that time, and more body shaming, and more because you weren't that perfect size. To be honest, perfect size 8 or even 6, a model 6. There's no way that if you're not naturally, if you're big boned or you're pear shaped, there's no way you're going to squeeze into into the statuesque models. And they were tall as well. So that was another thing in the way that it made women feel inferior. These were the supermodels, and the media really did dictate our outer realities. They were everywhere. They weren't just in magazines. They were in pop videos. There were billboards everywhere, making us feel we are nothing if we're not a supermodel status.
And I am grateful that we are in the Botticelli Renaissance period, and that all shapes, sizes, colors, genders, associations are being embraced in life now, right? I don't know if you all have seen this, but there's a show on Apple Plus called Physical, where she has an eating disorder and she goes and she hides it. And what I'm grateful for today, because I went through a phase of an eating disorder. I tried to have an eating disorder. I thought an eating disorder was cool. And right? Like, to what end? But there's a show called Physical, and here she is that rail thin, and she goes and eats everything, and she has a whole ritual around it, and then throws it up and cleans herself off and goes back into life. And it is because she is stuffing down all of her feelings. Where are we stuffing down our feelings? And they have to come out one way, shape, or form. That's another reason why so many women have breast cancer, is keeping all of that emotion stored in their heart, not being able to fully feeling safe, to Dr. Jacalyn's point, to open our hearts, to be fully self-expressed in the environments we're in. I'd love to hear that story that you shared, or maybe there's another story in a workplace when a most likely masculine had something derogatory to say in a public forum, and that was okay about our bodies.
I can share.
Great.
I was in my corporate career, and I was calling on a very well-known consumer products company, and they happened to manufacture hair color. And I knew that the decision makers were younger than me, decades younger. And so I wanted to appeal to them to get the business. So I thought, I want to look remarkable and in alignment with their products. So I posted a survey in our I forget whatever it was, for our intranet at work. And I asked, should I color half of my hair this color or this color? And people responded to the survey, and it was really cool. And I decided to go with whatever the orange color was. And so a couple weeks later, actually on my way to that trip, we had a business dinner, and there were probably 15 of us at the table. And the senior executive was sitting next to me. And of course, when he spoke, everyone stopped speaking. And so he said, I saw the poll that you put out there, and I just want you to remember, when you're calling on this major global client, you're representing our firm. Don't go in there looking like a hooker. And the executive at the other end of the table said, did you just say hooker? And he said, yes, I did. He said, well, that's an HR violation, first of all. And everyone at the table stopped speaking. So the next day, I had to go and meet with this person and the other person, because our boss had mysteriously disappeared. So they wanted us to know everything was okay. So I was in this meeting dressed to the nines. I was nervous wreck, but I knew I had something to say, and I could no longer not say it, because there have been other things that I felt like I was disrespected. So long story short, I get into the meeting, and the senior executive says, by the way, I want to let you know, I didn't mean what I said last night. And I looked at him and I said, oh, you most certainly did mean what you said. And not only did you disrespect this company, all these employee owners, but you disrespected our client, you disrespected me, you disrespected yourself, and you disrespected hookers. Guess what? Hookers are people. Hookers are consumers. Hookers are maybe using these products that our global client is selling and providing. If you ever speak to me in that way again, I will take you up to HR, because we have a witness right here. And I was this was dripping down my back, I'm telling you. And he looked at me, he turned bright red, and that was the end. He didn't say another word. And our relationship, of course, was completely ruined after that. But thanks for listening.
Well, and thank you for standing up, right? Because I have no doubt that there was a ripple effect, that whether it was him or people who experienced that or didn't have to experience that. So thank you for using your voice and standing up for the truth. Let's respect ourselves. Let's respect our bodies. We got this for the time that we have it. So we get to embrace it. So I think we're wrapping up. Do we have time for one more question, or are we complete?
I think we have time for one more question.
All right, so let's finish this. When was the moment that you accepted what this whole thing looks like? Those who didn't get to go. Tracy?
I don't know if I really have one. I think, like I said, I always have. I've always rebelled against the idea that, I couldn't be. So any kinds of limitations, and especially with women, there always are limitations placed on us. I was just like, no, watch me, little girl. I was just like, I remember my best friend in high school said we're secure in our insecurities. So while we had insecurities, I wouldn't, refuse to let them kind of limit me or stop me. I think that's been the limit, personally or professionally.
I do think there is like, where did we compensate? Where did we sell ourselves short? Where did I dull my shine? Where did I not speak out when my truth bubbled up? Where did I allow others to take the lead on X, Y, and Z? Because I was afraid to be seen. It wasn't safe to be seen. Yes. All right. Last minute round table. What's your parting advice or wisdom to share with other women in relation to their bodies and comparison being the thief of joy? How can we move forward in the world? We'll go around the horn, and then we'll end with Dr. Jacalyn so she can wrap us out. So, JENETTA.
I'm a great believer in being able to allow that inner talk out to be heard, because it's basically that child inside us. And when that's been heard, we can step into truly and authentically and clearly and unconditionally, well, almost unconditionally, really appreciating and loving ourselves and feeling more safe.
Beautiful. Tracy, parting wisdom.
What I always say about everything is just, we truly limit ourselves. Don't limit yourself in terms of, highlight find the things that you do love about yourself. Highlight those things. In terms of whether it's about our bodies or whether it's about our life or whether it's about the news, we notice the bad. We think about the bad more than we think about the good. So try to shift your way of thinking to think about the things that you do like. Highlight those, and see yourself differently.
Thank you. Madalene.
All I can say is that you just got to make sure that you switch off from the outer world. And also you have to just become confident, listen to yourself, and do not live somebody else's life. Do not live your life through somebody else's life in the way that you are not them. They are not you. You are not their body shape. But once once you connect with who you are, your authentic true self, as Jenetta said, then that's when you have a whole new perception of yourself, your feeling body, your emotional body, your spiritual body, your goddess, everything. The masculine and the feminine energies come to an alignment and a balance, and your true self shines forth.
Jenetta. Oh, sorry, Justina. That's my bad.
I think I'll just say to everybody to accept themselves as they are. Like I said, everybody is created in God's own image, and God has several images, various images. And just be who you are, because everybody else is taken. You can't be another person that you were not made to be. Just accept you are the way you are, because then the beauty from within will shine out to the world. But the more you struggle with yourself to be like somebody else, the more you have problems, and you get this frustration. If you want to be happy and live a grateful life, just accept who you are, because you are a unique being, you are a unique creation, and you cannot be anybody else, because everybody else is taken, and there's only one you in this whole wide world. There will never be another you. So celebrate that and cherish that, and always carry that with you.
Just to piggyback on that, you are 1 in a trillion chance that you exist. Here you are. And when I own that, I magnetize everything I desire to me. Dr. Jacalyn, bring us home.
Thank you very much. I'll sum it up this way. Today, I received my blood test results. I had not had my blood checked since 2018, and I have ulcerative colitis, I have facial eczema, I have scalp psoriasis, and I've been dreading getting the test done, right? We obsess. I got an 11 here, but what's going on inside this body? What is going on inside this meat suit? And I didn't want to know, because if I knew, I'd have to take action. And the bottom line is the test came back and I am healthy. And that's the point. I am healthy. So what this looks like on the outside doesn't really matter if you're healthy on the inside. So I thank God for that. And I just ask people, don't wait 4 years to get your blood tested. Don't wait 4 years to love yourself. Do it now. And it's all about what's inside of you that matters, not this container. All right. That's our show for today, A Woman's Prerogative. Thank you to Madalene Chan for joining us as a guest. We are so happy to have you. Kathy Fulton, we missed you here today. And Desiree, we know you'll be back next week. If you'd like to be a guest on our show, go over to our website, usaglobaltv.com. You can actually book in to be a guest on this show, as well as all of our other shows. That's all we have for now. We're going to wave and say goodbye, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week. Bye.
Bye, everyone.